Hi, my name is Chris Sikora, and I'm going to step you through SolidWorks Exercise 1, and this is SolidWorks 2022. So as you can see in front of you, you can see there's that part file. That's what we're going to create today, as well as 2 additional parts that are in a training guide. So first of all, as we look at this, some of the items that we're going to look at are how to create these bosses. You can see the dimensions that are appearing there. We're also going to put in fillets. Fillets are rounds or radiuses, as you can see here, of 1 inch. We're going to put a hole in as well into the part, and we're going to put chamfers in. That's what you see right here, which is an angle. And then we'll also, if I rotate this around, you'll see we're going to shell it out to make it a thin-walled part. And we'll add some colors to it and a material type, so we can check how much it weighs in the end. All right, so let's begin. Now, first of all, if you're curious where to find this information, if you'd like a training guide, you can go to vertani1.com. All right, and now you'll see it's not secured, so if you get a message, it's up to you. I don't sell anything on here, so I didn't bother to purchase any sort of thing like that. But anyhow, as you can see here, I'm going to go ahead and if you go to instructional manuals, you could go to SolidWorks Basics. And from here, find the 2021 training guide. And my plan is to update that as soon as I can. No promises on when that will be ready, but I'm currently just starting to make the videos. And as you can see in here, there is a syllabus in here. This is a college course, 3 credit hour college course. And so if you're looking for 1 minute or 5-minute video, look somewhere else for tutorials. And I always tell this to people, I wouldn't want a brain surgeon working on me who only knew their craft from 5-minute videos. So this is a college course, so just be aware of that. Okay, and you can see on here it goes through a lot of the general information, those of you who are taking my classes, as well as all the parts that we're going to work on. Okay, and if you scroll through, you'll see a lot of different items. It tells you about the mouse buttons. We're going to go through this actually in the video, so I'm going to fast forward through this for right now. It's really just a collection of notes. Just be aware of that. It's not an actual professional manual. Anyhow, exercise 1 starts on page 19 of this training guide. It's free to download. You can print it out, do whatever you like with it. I just ask you don't resell it. All right, so to get started here, you'll see you could go to File, up where it says SolidWorks, there's a little arrow, it unfolds, and you could go to New, and you'll see there's Parts, Assemblies, and Drawings. Now my scale is all set differently, so that's why you're seeing this very large. Yours might not be that big. But anyhow, the first 4 weeks are just going to be part files. The 5th week is going to be assemblies, and the 6th week drawings. 7th week is a review for the midterm, and the 8th week is the actual midterm exam for those of you who are taking my course. But we're just going to do parts, so just make sure part is selected. Now there is advanced, and you can see there's templates, and I have a video you could check. You just type in templates under my page, Vertani1. You'll see there's actually a video on how to make part templates and such. But we could just go ahead and grab that, hit OK. Now, depending upon when you installed SolidWorks, you might actually have it in IPS, like we're here in the United States, or I'm here in the US. So I have inch, pound, second set up. Metric is there as well, but for my videos, IPS is what I'm using. So if you'd like, just down below there, hit that little button, change it to IPS. It'll make your life a little bit easier. I do like the metric system. It's just that we're here in the United States, and so I'm using inches. All right, so anyhow, let's go ahead and take a look on the left here. Now, when it comes to the interface of SolidWorks, this is your Feature Manager design tree. This is very unique. Actually, not so unique anymore. It was one of the first to adopt this type of technology. And what you have is essentially, you have front, top, and right planes. These are your paper that you're going to sketch on. Now, which one do you sketch on first? We're going to discuss that in a little bit, but typically, just so you know, most parts we're going to sketch on the front plane for most of the time, and that will be just fine. You'll also see the material type, and it's currently not specified. If you like, just simply right mouse button click, And I'll always say, if I'm going to use the right mouse button, I'll say it twice, use the right mouse button. And if I refer to the left mouse button, I usually don't refer to it as left. I just say mouse button, click on mouse button. All right, so anyhow. Now you can see there's a list of some common materials you could select from for a quick launch, or else you could go to edit material here. And when you click on edit material, you'll see there's a much larger or extensive library. You could actually procure additional libraries, or you could customize it. If you scroll all the way to the bottom, you'll see you have the ability to make custom materials. Now what this has in it is a bunch of information regarding anything you would need to know for its density, its weight. Also, as you'll see, like it's megapascals, so at what point does it actually start to fail and things like that. But we're going to go, for this particular part, we're going to go with the aluminum. So go ahead and click on aluminum alloys, and we'll go with the 1060 alloy. And I like to, believe it or not, even though I have you set up in IPS, I do like megapascals or MPa, which is the SI system. And here you can see there's a lot of information regarding this. Sometimes materials are a little bit different from the manufacturers, not so much metals, but plastics and such. So you might want to just verify that according to the material data sheets, whatever you're using. But here you can see there's the yield strength, 27.5 megapascals, tensile strength, 68, so on. So this is a very soft material. Let's go ahead and just hit apply. Unfortunately, because my scale is kind of weird on here, go ahead and just hit apply at the bottom, and then hit the X up at the top. Or you could hit close actually after you hit apply. All right. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead, and I'd like you to select the front plane. Now when you click on the front plane, that's what we're going to sketch on. That's our paper. And essentially what you're doing is you're taking and you adopt what you think is front, top, and right and back and so on and so forth. So like this is the back of my phone. This is the front, this might be the top. So depending upon what you're sketching, you essentially sketch that profile. So if I were sketching on the front plane, I would sketch the front here. Okay. All right, so we're going to draw that part out. So as long as we click on front plane, if you move your pointer too quickly, you'll see that there was a series of toolbars to the right of it. It disappeared. That was a quick launch, and it's actually really nice to have. But let's just go to the sketch tab. And since it disappeared on us, we could enter this manually, and we have sketch here. Now sometimes I have students click the little arrow underneath to see what's underneath, just to show you there's sketch, 3D sketch, and 3D sketch on plane. Notice 3D sketch and 3D sketch on plane are really 3D sketches used for like wiring. They can be used for piping, tubing, things like that. Not particularly great with what we're doing right now, so avoid it. Go with just the standard sketch, which is technically like a 2D sketch. All right. Okay, now that we've selected that, you should have gone normal to the front plane. Now move your pointer over here to the upper left, and you'll find corner rectangle. If you hit the little arrow to the right of it, you'll see all the different types of rectangles you can create. We're going to use those throughout the course, but let's go ahead and go with corner rectangle for right now. Move your pointer, which turns now into a pencil, to the origin. The origin is right in the center of the screen there. It's red. You'll see a vertical line and a horizontal indicating Y and X. You can also see in the lower corner, there's actually shows you Y and X there. Now, what I want you to do is once you get the little orange dot that appears under your pointer, that means you're centered on the 0 marker in space. Click one time. Now remember, just one, the click means the left mouse button. All right, now move your pointer, you can release it, but move your pointer to the upper right. You see some feedback, X and Y values. SolidWorks doesn't force you to use the X and Y really. Essentially, you could dimension them in any way you want, but this is just to get you close to the marker. And in this case, it doesn't really matter as long as you're about 2.5 by 2.5 is fine, whatever fits in the screen. You go ahead and click again, and it will complete the sketch. Now, or at least the rectangle, I should say. Now you'll see these green little boxes. Those are constraints. There's two types of constraints inside SolidWorks. There are dimensional constraints, which we're going to use in a second. Okay, so that's for the length. Maybe we're going to want it 3 inches. The height is going to be 5 inches of this box. But then there's these constraints that essentially are common elements of geometry: horizontal, vertical, coincident, tangency, equal. There's going to be those things we're going to see, and we're going to use them over the course. So you actually blend those two to fully define the geometry. So right now these are set to vertical and horizontal, and it's coincident, meaning it's anchored or locked into the origin, which is a good thing. All right, now go up here to Smart Dimension. You'll hit the little arrow underneath just to show you there's lots of ways to dimension here. We're going to use Smart Dimension until probably the end of the semester. We'll look at some of the others. Go to Smart Dimension. Now move your pointer over here. Now, a lot of you might have used a different CAD system where you click on points. You can do that here too, but I like kind of lazy. If I don't have to click on a point, I don't want it to. I'm going to click on the whole line itself to get the dimension for the height. So if you hover over this line, stay away from the midpoint, which is there, as well as the endpoints. And when it turns orange, click. Move your mouse to the left. And those of you who might not be familiar with dimensioning techniques, there is an auto dimension technique that is really nice, and you can look that up in other videos. I'm going to do it the manual way because I'm teaching you a little bit about dimensioning here. But try and center the dimension so it looks good like this. Kind of like if you're going to fire into a goal and there's no goalie, might as well try and shoot for the center so you don't miss the sides. And it looks that way here too, where it just looks better. So go ahead and get that right in the center of those extension lines. And now, just a little piece of advice, if you ever go for an interview, don't do this, like click inside here and backspace. Never do that, because it makes you look like you're an amateur. I'll show you a different way in a second, but since I already started it, I'll just get it all the way gone. And this is going to be 5, so you could type in 5. And again, amateur hour would be to type in 5.000. Don't do that if you're on an interview. Okay, so just type in 5 if you know it's 5 inches exactly. And go ahead and hit the green check. Once you hit the green check or the enter key, it will update. Now go ahead and select this bottom line. Now watch this. Once we click on the second one to define the width, you'll see it will scale up properly and how you'd expect it. So we, again, center the dimension. We could just do it down here. Go ahead and click. And instead of backspacing, notice how the whole thing is blue? That means you could type in a value. In this case, just type in 3. We know it needs to be 3 inches wide. Look at that. Go ahead and hit enter on your keyboard or the green check mark. Now, if you're using the number lock, make sure, or the numbers on the side, turn on number locks. Make sure that's on when you do that. Okay, so now that we have a rectangle, look at that, 3 by 5. Let's go ahead and we're going to now go into the 3D realm here. Now the 3D realm, sketches are really for the most part 2D with the exception of what we saw there earlier, 3D sketch, but let's go to features. Features actually make it into a solid, okay? And you need geometry like you see up here in order to create these features essentially. So we created a rectangle, and if any of you have ever played with Play-Doh years ago as a kid and you had the extruder, which you actually put the Play-Doh in and you had a star feature or a square and you squeeze it through, that's called extrusion, and it creates that geometry. And the length is what we need to specify here. So you'll see there's extruded boss base. Go ahead and select that. That's to add material. Now you'll see over here in the center you have a little arrow. You could hover over it and drag it out and you get a ruler, and you could actually get it pretty close with the ruler. Sometimes it's a little tricky though because mine's only set to 2 decimal places. I'm going to show you how to bump that up to 3 or up to 8 decimal places if you like. It's actually really easy. But anyhow, and make sure it's pulled forward, okay, not back. There is a way to push it back, but we don't want that yet, okay. Anyhow, over on the left, I want to show you this. Where the Feature Manager design tree now was, there's the Boss Extrude feature information. So we have, ignore this right now, it's a nice feature, but we'll go back to that another day. Direction here, you'll see that it's set to blind. It just means a specific depth. You type in an explicit value here. So for the depth, we actually want this to be a 1/2 inch. So you could type in 1/2, just like a half, or type in 0.5 as a decimal. SolidWorks will recognize both. In fact, you could type in like 0.25 times 2 and it will actually do the math for you as well. So you could actually use it as a little calculator versus having to pull up your Windows calculator or a desktop calculator. Okay, so we have 0.5. And if you're not in the proper units, you could always go back here and change it later, but you'll also see you could have typed in 0.5 mm if you wanted it in metric. Okay, so you can just change it, or IN is for inches. If you're in metric, if you see a little mm, go ahead and type in IN or put in the little quotes for inches. All right, now over here, once we have that, we hit enter. There's a lot of other features we're not going to cover just right now, but we will cover them later. Hit the green check, and now we have our solid. Now you'll see the sketch is still highlighted in blue. Go ahead on your keyboard in the upper left, hit escape or click anywhere off the part, And now you could actually see your 3D model. Now, some of you may not have the shadows in this cool effect. Now, that is due to a professional graphics card usually. Apparently, if you have like the GeForce cards and things like that, if you use the professional drivers, you could get it now. Someone said, I haven't tested it, but you might be able to do that now. But look at here, it's Real View Graphics. If you don't have Real View Graphics, this is what it typically looks like, which is still fine if you have a standard GeForce card. But if you have like the A series cards, the RTX series, I should say, like the A series are under RTX, as well as the T600, T1000, or even the P series, P1000, so on and so forth. All those have the professional drivers that enable you to select Real View Graphics. But if you have a standard GeForce card, you might not see that. Okay, but anyhow, I'm going to go ahead and activate it because I like it. I'm going to click on it and you get those cool effects. All right. Now to rotate this, just to show you some methods of rotating. On your keyboard, now I don't have the arrow keys, but if you have arrow keys, just hit them left, right, up, and down, and you'll see it will actually rotate the model in 15-degree increments. All right, now to get back to the isometric view, try this. Hit your space bar on your keyboard. So go ahead and hit the space bar, and you'll get this cube. Sometimes the cube is off. Someone wherever you work might have turned it off, or another student. You just click on the view selector here and that will reactivate it. Now you'll see there's the different views. You have front, top, bottom. Notice there's fast keys, Control 4, Control 3. But over here you'll see that there's a number. There's isometric, dimetric, and trimetric. Go ahead and select isometric. And that brings us back to our isometric view. And it centers it as well. Also up here, this is zoom to fit. Notice the F in parentheses. The F means if you hit the F key on your keyboard, it will automatically fit it to the screen. So let's say I zoomed out. Now the way I'm zooming out is with my wheel. I just scrolled it, okay? And now let's test it out. You could either hit this icon or F as in fit, and it fits. Now here's another one, zoom to area. Let's say you want to click on that and you want to see this lower left corner. Just click and drag a little fence to surround it. It'll zoom up there. Now, if you want to go back, you could zoom to fit, or you could go over here. This is previous view. This takes you back. Now, there is section view. If you click on section view, you have the ability to drag through and rotate just by grabbing this geometry how you would like to see it slice through. Over here, there's some additional options. Just hit the green check mark, and you'll see it looks like you just modeled a different part, but actually you just turn this off to bring it back. You can work in section view mode. Be aware of that. There are some limitations though, so I prefer not to all the time, but sometimes it's really nice. Okay, and then we also have view orientation, and this brings you to the same tool we had where we hit the space bar, but it's right here instead. And look at that, there is the isometric. Now here's one of my favorite tools. Let's say I want to go normal to this face. I could click on this face, and then as I click over here, this is normal to, or Control 8. It'll bring us to whatever face that is. So in the case of this, where it's a prismatic part, it doesn't matter. But imagine if you had some shapes that have strange angles and you want to look directly at them. That's a nice tool for that. I'm going to hit my space bar again and go back to isometric. All right, also notice if you click on the surface, you have the dimensions. You could change these. If you click on that, let's say you want to change it to 6. It lets you change it to 6, hit enter. Sometimes you have to double click on it, by the way, and you'll see it will update. Now, if you don't like that, you could click on it again, type in 5, bring it back down, or you have the undo button or Control Z. Don't hit it too many times, just once in this case, because you could end up undoing too much. You do have a redo button, but don't depend on it all the time. Okay, now I need to fit this at my screen. I hit the F key and it refits it. And now some other things in here. Look at this, display style. Click on that. You could turn it to shaded, takes off the edges. You could turn it shaded with edges. That's what we had on. You have hidden lines removed. Looks just like that. Now I'm teasing you with a little rotation. Let's rotate it like I just did there. Is on your mouse, the wheel. Don't scroll it, but hold it down and push it down like it's a button and move your mouse left and right, up and down. And that allows you to rotate dynamically. So hold it down and rotate. If you want, take a couple minutes and try it out. It's kind of neat. All right, anyhow, there's also hidden lines visible. So you see the little dashed lines there. Okay, so you can see through the part, but it's still wireframe. And then there's just your generic wireframe like that. Okay, anyhow, I'm going to go back to shaded with edges, and I recommend you do the same too. That's like a really good one to start learning on. Now there's some other options here. Hide show items, where you could turn on and off things that you might not want to see. The planes if they're on, or center lines, and all sorts of neat things. But beware, I'm not going to go through that too much. Now you have some of these other tools here. Now this one is to apply or edit materials. We're not going to do that just yet, but we could go to apply scene, hit the little arrow, and you could change this to 3-point faded as default. Be careful whatever you choose here, because your colors might be very different than mine once you set it, and it might be confusing, especially if this is your first time taking my course. If you've taken a couple of these before, and if you know it already, go for it. But like I could change it to plain white, you can see it changes it. I kind of like the 3-point faded, looks kind of nice. And then we've seen this earlier with real view, perspective, and so on. Now there's a save reminder. I'm just gonna, cancel that because I want to show you how to save it in a certain way. All right, to save it, now you could go up here to this, what looks like a floppy drive, hit the little arrow, you have save, save as, and there's publish and e-drawing, and so on. Let's just go to save. Now to save this part, I actually saved it on my desktop, and I created a folder just by right-clicking, and I went to new folder, and then I named the new folder SolidWorks 2022 files, and then I saved that one that you saw earlier up there. Now the way this course works is for each exercise, you turn those in to me if you're taking my course online, or I should say through the college. It's for credit. So you need to have this saved, E1 in this case, because it's exercise 1. Now later we're going to do the labs that are associated with exercise 1, like lab 1 and lab 1B. And so you'll save those too. But right now save them as the part file. As you can see here, it says SolidWorks part file. Go ahead and hit save. But later on, I want you, if you're going to send them to me, those of you in my course, you do a save as, and instead of a SolidWorks part, I want you to send them to me as a Adobe PDF. So PDF is right there. And go ahead and you would save that off and send it. Now this is incomplete, so don't send this to me unless you're going to get it incomplete on that one. But anyhow, so that's what I typically do, and just send me PDFs. Do not send me the part files. PDFs are much more efficient, smaller files. You'll clog up my hard drive in no time. Okay, so anyway, let's keep moving. So hit your space bar and let's go back to isometric. You could also hit this polygon in the upper right there, and that'll bring you to isometric. So you could actually click on the ice cube that was there, or what looks like an ice cube. All right, let's move on. Now, last time when we started to sketch, we sketched on one of the 3 planes that are over here on the left, front, top, and right. We actually select the front. But you could also sketch on any flat surface. So as long as it's flat, like in this case, this front surface, let's go ahead and select it. And you'll get this quick launch. If you don't move too quickly, you could go right to sketch here, this little icon. Otherwise, you could go the same route we took earlier. This is a little longer. And you could go right up to sketch. Either one is fine. I don't really care whichever one you want to sketch on. Or it's the same exact tool. All right, let's go back to the corner rectangle. Now later I'll show you the line tool, which is really easy too, but let's go to corner rectangle. Hover over this left corner, you'll see the little orange dot, and to the right of your pointer, you'll see a preview of the added constraint it's going to add, in this case coincident. Remember, it's like it anchors it there. Click, move your pointer to the upper side, I should say right side, not too high, about Y. See, there's Y is like 1.46-ish. That's pretty good. It's pretty close. If you go any higher, you might accidentally get the midpoint. Stay away from that. That's a little too high for us, but we want it to be, we're going to have it actually be 1.5. So right about here is good. Click, and now go to Smart Dimension, and click on this line here, and center that dimension. Click again to release it. Type 1.5. Now, some of you might notice that your 1.5 is actually rotated and following the line. You might have in the ISO standard, international standard, which is fine too. This is a course whatever you want to use, okay, as long as it's the right dimension. That's all I care about. The standard doesn't matter to me too much. Okay, so let's now go to features, and that brings us into the 3D tools again. And we have Extrude Boss Base. So let's go ahead and select that again. and it remembered our 0.5 depth, which actually that's what we want again. Now notice there's a merge results, and sometimes I have students who overthink this and they turn it off. We want it to merge. We want these two to be one part. If you turn off merge results, it's going to be a body and a body on two bodies, kind of like Lego stacked, but we want it continuous. So in this case, do that. But there are times you don't want to merge, but this time we do. So leave that on. Hit the green check. And now it looks like, oh, what, that's separate. But remember, that's just the geometry left over from the sketch. So just click anywhere and it'll disappear, or hit escape. All right, now we're going to drill a hole in here. Now, if you select this face, we could again start a sketch, and we'll go normal 2. And we're going to do it the old-fashioned way. There is a hole tool. There's a whole wizard actually inside SolidWorks, which allows you to select counterbores, countersinks. All this great stuff is in there. You can put threads in on it. It's fabulous. But I want to show you how to do a very basic hole with the primitive tools, okay? So let's go to the circle tool here. If you hit the little arrow to the right of it, you'll see there's 2 types, perimeter circle and circle. We just want circle, and we'll always use circle. In this beginner's class, we never even touch perimeter circle, so ignore that. Just go with circle. Now move your pointer to this upper left area. Now if you see this little blue point, that's just kind of a tracer left over when you clicked on the surface, so ignore it. It doesn't make, it's really nothing. But we want right about there, click and drag out a circle. And notice it gives you a radius. Most everything I do in this class, we always have the diameter. So it's usually, we don't go by the radius there, but that's okay. Click. Now go to Smart Dimension. And I'm going to scroll backwards to zoom out, scroll forwards, I should say, to zoom out a little bit. I'm going to click on the outside of the circle so the circle turns orange. Click. Drag this to the upper left corner, click to release it, and type in 0.75, so 3/4 of an inch. You could, again, type in 3/4, and it will actually change to 0.75 for you, because again, it's a calculator, that's 3. But anyhow, once you have that, now we're going to locate where it is. And we'll locate from the center. You can actually select the outside too. That gives you some additional options, which can be really nice. But let's select the center point of that circle. Now we want it to base it off of this edge 1 inch. So click on this edge when it turns orange. Drag this up a little bit up here. If you don't have enough room, zoom out with the scroll. Now there, click, and that's going to be 1 inch. So it's 1 inch distance. Now let's go with that center point again. Click on it. Now be careful, make sure it's the actual crosshair center, not the end point of the extension line. All right, now click on this top edge, and we'll base it 1 inch off of this too. So click over here, type in 1 and hit enter. And now you can drag this out with your pointer. You can just grab it and hold it with your mouse, you're holding the left mouse button down. Okay, and lay it out like that so it looks pretty decent, okay? Now let's go to features. Now before we added material, now SolidWorks, I think one other CAD system, a couple other CAD systems do it this way, but most don't do it this way. Everything is an extrude. It allows you to remove and add material through extrude. SolidWorks broke them out to 2 separate tools. So don't make that mistake. I still make that mistake from time to time. But if you're going to remove material, use Extrusion Cut, which is right over here. So go ahead and select that. Now, we can see it's going 0.5. Now, if you go with the 0.5, you might have a little bit of an issue. I want to share with you something. This is a little in depth. I don't expect you to really remember it just yet, but I'm just planting a seed. When you become an expert modeler, you'll probably thank me for teaching you this, but there's something called design intent. Design intent is your plan on how you want to model this, so that if someone comes by and tries to change it or alter it, because change almost always occurs in design, you want to make it as simple as possible and understandable as possible. So in this case, if we go with 0.5, let's say we did that and that through hole, it is a through hole at 0.5 because the thickness of this plate is 0.5. But what if someone changes it? Remember how we could click on that surface and there are all those dimensions that popped up? You could change the thickness. See, someone changes to 0.75 of an inch because they need to beef it up. And then all of a sudden that hole is not updated. You send it out to the shop, they manufacture 1 million parts, and lo and behold, the hole doesn't go through. If it needs to go through, this is what you do. Design intent now. Blind, instead of blind, take a look, hit the little arrow to the right of it. Look at that, you have through all. There's also through all both, and there's a bunch of other stuff below it. we're only interested in through all. If there was something in front of it, like sometimes sheet metal wraps around itself, you might want to have it go both directions. But in this case, just through all. Okay? And hit the green check mark. That will ensure that if someone goes through and changes it, let's test it. Go ahead and double click on the side of this model. Now you'll see the 0.5 in blue. That's the thickness of the part. Double click on that and you'll get it. Sometimes you get just a little one if you click on it once. If you double click, sometimes you could get this whole dialog box. Now, if you get the modify box, if you don't have it, don't worry. You could type in your value of 0.75 just to test it and click off of it. And I'll show you how to rebuild. But look at this. If you have this, you have this little dial. You could dial in a new thickness. So let's say I want 0.75. It's not too easy to get exactly. I could also adjust this, but it's only in 100,000 increments. So I'm going to type in 0.75. Now you can, instead of applying it and saving it like that, you could hit the regenerate. Now this little button, you'll see it's up at the top as well. It will actually regenerate the model. So watch this, hit that, and it actually thickened it. Now hit the green check and then click anywhere to deactivate what you selected. You could clearly see it's thicker. Now let's rotate it. Remember, with middle mouse wheel, hold it down, move it left, right, up and down, just so you can see this. And it's guaranteed through. So that is a little picture of what we call design intent in the industry. And the better modeler you are as you develop your skills over time, some of it will come naturally, but only don't think about it too much. Okay, at least right now. All right, now if we want to change that, we know we could use the undo button. We could go and hit undo, but let's try it again. Click on this side face, find that 0.75. This time I clicked once. Let's change it to 0.5, hit enter. And there it updated. Now, if you do ever get it to where it doesn't update, like if you hit the green check mark before hitting the rebuild button, try hitting this rebuild button at the end, and that will ensure that it will update, because it doesn't always update. And that's only because it's designed that way. Sometimes you want to make a bunch of changes and then hit rebuild, have it all update. So anyhow, all right, at this point, those of you who are taking my class, this is what the training guide shows as the end. And so if we take a look here, that was the goal, to create that geometry exactly as you see it right there, okay? And that's all I grade on. If you don't care to do anything, or if you don't think you're going to use SolidWorks, you're just taking this because someone made you take it, move on. Move on to the labs. Okay, lab 1 is down below here, and lab 1B is below that. Okay, but I'm going to show you some really cool things that are going to enhance your skills. They're going to help you become more of a professional at this. So, and it's only an additional 5 to 10 minutes to watch. So it's up to you though. But if you were right now in my class and you didn't really want to do the rest of it, and this isn't really a good portfolio piece, by the way. I encourage students to make a portfolio piece so they can show it off. If you show this to an employer, you're going to get some Z's. It's kind of boring. But let's enhance that, okay? Let's go to the Fillet tool. Click on Fillet. Now Fillet right here puts a radius on. Now there's a number of types of radiuses we cover over the next two there's courses, intro and advanced. But right here you can see it sets to symmetric, and make sure full preview is turned on. Check that box if it's not already on. All right, now the size. Type in 1 over here. I just clicked on it, so 1 inch. And watch this. Hover over the edge, almost as if you're going to file it down. Let's say you had a file in your hand and you want to file that. Go ahead and select the edge. It'll turn orange. Look at that. You get a preview of what it's going to look like. If you don't like what you see, click on that edge again and it deselects it. Okay, so it's really easy to fix. But let's go ahead and click on it again. All right, now you might accidentally do this. If you miss the edge, because you have to be pretty precise, you might select a whole face and then all of a sudden everything disappears. That is an indicator. Like, remember, this height here is only ½ inch. We have a fillet of 1 inch. That's twice the size. It can't accommodate that size of a fillet on this geometry, so it disappears because it can't do it. It's going to give you an error afterwards if you would try and apply it. So don't select the face in this case, but there's only a couple systems out there that enable you to select the face like this, which is really cool. SolidWorks to let you do this. But go ahead and click on that face again if you did, just to deselect it. And look at that, our first fillet came back. Now let's accurately get over this edge here and select. And we've got it. Now I don't want you to add any other fillets just yet. Later on, have as much fun as you want. I really encourage it. Those who do find entertainment in this, you're going to become exceptional at it by the end of the class if you have a little fun with it. Anyhow, now that we have that, let's try putting in what's called a chamfer. So underneath fillet, there's a little arrow. Hit the little arrow, find chamfer. Now chamfer allows you to add an angle instead of a radius. Now angles have a tendency, or chamfers, cast more of a greater shadow. They're more jagged. So for design, those are some qualities that you might like or maybe not like. So anyhow, but there's different reasons for chamfers. All right, in this case, make sure you have full preview on, set it to 0.125, and at 45 degrees. Now we could do, there's equal distance, so if we did equal distance to distance, we could put 0.125 by 0.125, and on a 90-degree angle, it automatically comes out to 45. So just note that the math, might change for those. But in this case, let's go ahead and select this edge. Now watch this. You'll see it go all the way around, okay? Now the reason it went around this edge because there's a tangent propagation is turned on. If you turn that off, it only chamfers that little edge. Turn it on, you get it all the way around. It stops where the edge stops. Let's go ahead and try this edge. Do this one now. All right, there we go. Hit the green check. All right, so there's a chamfer. Now let's do one other thing. Now this is an advanced item, but it's really easy. SolidWorks does the advanced stuff very easily. Let's go to shell. First of all, rotate this so you're looking at the backside like I have there. Take a minute to rotate it like that if you want in practice. Like pause my video, but let's go ahead. Those of you who are keeping up, let's now go to shell. Now you'll see the parameters here. 0.1 for the thickness is the default on my system. That's fine. I think I'm going to use that. Select this face. There is a show preview, which it's kind of hard to tell what's going on there. It's like gives you a wireframe. But go ahead and select this bottom face here and this side face. And those are faces that we're going to remove. Now there is shell outward, which would thicken it on the outside. See that? Now you could use that in certain cases, like it's sometimes handy with sheet metal design, but in this case we're not interested in that. Go ahead and turn that off and hit the green check mark when you're ready. And now we have that shelled, thin-walled feature. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and hit the disk again. Since we already saved it, we could hit it again. And let's see how to enhance this for a portfolio. Again, this is optional. You don't have to do this. There is actually a whole video on how to make a portfolio, but I'll show you really quickly how to do it. Go over here and on this little, looks like your monitor, turn on perspective. Now there is cartoon. Oops, you know what? Never mind that right now. But let's turn that off actually. Turn on perspective. Perspective gives you a vanishing point. Just like a room gets smaller from your perspective, as the further away the back wall gets, that's what this is doing. So it looks more realistic. So if you want to make a realistic image, that's a good idea. It prompts you if you don't have it on anyhow, so it's not a big deal if you forget. All right, so now let's go to, you'll see there's a render tools. To activate that under SolidWorks add-ins, make sure Photoview 360 is turned on. If your Photoview 360 isn't available to be clicked on, that might mean you have just the core version of SolidWorks. There's the professional version, and there's a core version. There's different names for them, and they don't always include the Photoview 360, which is a realistic photo rendering module. So beware, you might not have that. And if you don't, not a big deal. This is perfectly fine, okay, as a nice image. But let's turn that on. Then there's a Render Tools tab that appears. And now you'll see up here, there's Integrated Preview. Go ahead and select that. Now sit back and let it do its magic. The more processors, or I should say, threads you have on your computer, the faster this is. This actually utilizes multi-threaded processors in the best way. You can see mine finished. Now, just to show you here, I'm going to Control-Alt-Delete so you can see what processor I have. All right, I'm currently working on the 12th Gen 1290 KS, or not 900 KS, and it has what they call cores, and then there's logical processors, 24, and we could actually open the resources monitor here and go to there are CPUs, and you could see all the CPUs. This is a little bit different technology than some of the AMDs, the way it works, where you have these like park processors and things like that. But watch this. Notice there's like they're flatlined right now pretty much, but watch once we rotate and then let it work, and you'll see all these are going to kick up. It starts utilizing all the processors, and so you could really, the more cores you have, the faster it will render. So that hence is why if you're working for a company, ask them to get you the fastest processor. It's going to save the company money if you do that, because then they're not waiting around, or you're not waiting around to have things rendered, or other applications as well, like for finite element analysis. Okay, so anyhow, let's turn off integrated preview for a minute. If you leave it on, it does suck up resources anytime you rotate, so just be aware of that. But let's add some little details to this. First of all, to color this, right now it's set to 1060 alloy, which is aluminum, which is fine. But let's go ahead, let's imagine we want to change this chamfer. So hover over this chamfer, right click, and you'll see this beach ball. Hit the little arrow to the right of the beach ball, and you could have just that individual face changed to chamfer. So that means the whole feature, that's all those chamfers there, or the entire body, which we don't want. Or you could destroy, or I should turn off by hitting the red X, the entire aluminum. But we want just the chamfer, so go ahead and select that. And now over to the right, it should pop this up. Now you'll see there's plastics, metals, so on and so forth. I like to go with the painted, and you can have a little fun with this. If you want to go to metals, pick gold or whatever you like. But watch this, I'll go to car, and there's these different colors for cars. I really like the gloss blue. I always use that one. So I click there, and you can see it just added that color. Now you can adjust the colors a little bit on the left, hit the green check. Now let's say I wanted this to be gold. I could click on that face, go over here, and then just that face. Or I could do the cut extrude, which is the whole, I guess that would work too. Let's go ahead and select that, and I'm going to go to metals. And look at this, we have copper, brass, nickel, zinc. You know what, I'm going to go with actually, let's go with brass. And you'll see there's brushed brass, polished brass, satin finish, burnished brass. Have fun, tinker with them. Hit the green check mark and apply. Now, it might not look that great right now. It looks pretty decent because of the graphics card, but now we could actually go, and you should be able to select under the view here, oops, right here is the integrated preview, and just sit back and let it run there. Sometimes it takes a minute for it to know. It might not have liked it. There it goes. Okay. And there you could actually see the photorealistically rendered entity, which turns out pretty cool. Now, if you wanted to trump the 1060 alloy, you could click on the surface, and you don't have to turn off integrated preview necessarily, but go over here to where it says E1, that's the entire body, that's everything. But remember, those other ones above it will trump it. So the blue as well as the gold are going to stay there. But go over here to this ball, and you could remove it. Actually, what I was hoping to do, let's go to body, and then go to aluminum, and go with polished aluminum. And now look at the effect you get there. You get the mirror finish that appears. So go ahead and have some fun with that. Play with it, change some colors. Another thing that makes it look a little more realistic, and there is a tool in here that will automatically do this, but I still sometimes like to do it myself for control purposes. But you could see here, like, break that edge. You could go to the features, go to Fillet, and set it to a very small size. Like, I'm going to scroll down here, and we'll set it to 10,000, so 0.10. 0.01. And now when we render that again, the edge looks a little more realistic and broken. You actually have to add a material choice usually for that edge, otherwise it'll highlight in a strange way. But you could break some of those edges. Like I said, the technology is in there to do it in the rendering tool. I'm not going to go through that right now, but that's one way you could do it as well. All right, so that now you could go to, if you want to save this, there's a couple things you could do. Now I'm not sure if the PDF does it, so here we could go to File, Save As. I think if you did, yeah, Save As, and let's try it. Let's do the PDF, so Adobe Portable Document Format. And I'm going to leave it as E1, hit Save. Let's see if it brings up the photo rendered image. I'm not sure if it will. And now I'm going to go ahead and take a look at that. And it actually did. Looks okay. Not bad. And then you just submit that to me. Like those of you in my online class, send me that PDF. All right. And make sure you put it in the E1 assignments area. Now, for the labs that we're going to do, the L1 and L1B, those have their own. So those of you in my D12 class, go all the way down under assignments, and you'll see the labs are down at the bottom. Make sure you put those individually. Sometimes I have students who put the labs with the exercises, and it gets confusing. And that's just for those of you who are taking my course at the actual college or online through D2L. All right, let's move on. I'm going to turn off the integrated preview. And let's take a look at our next thing here. So right here we have Lab 1. Now if you download this, you can actually rotate it, usually with the right click. And I'm not getting it here because I probably have to download it. If you hit download there, you could do it. Let's see if there's... no, if you download it, you could actually rotate it. But that's okay. I'll straighten my neck a little bit looking at it. So we have a 2 by 3.5 inch. It looks like the letter F. We're going to make it on its side though. So let's get started. Go up here to New, Part, and if I go to Novice, it's just Part here. That's fine. Hit OK. And again, just make sure it's on IPS here, inch pound second. Now just to show you where SolidWorks options are. Edit Document Units will bring you to the options. Also the gear up here, or I should say that what brings you to this too, or this. Actually, let me just verify. Let's see. Yeah, that is it. Or File Properties. If you go here, you'll see that there's System Options and Document Properties. The way it's broken up inside SolidWorks, System Options are global settings. Whatever you change in there, it remembers for the next part, the next part, the next part. Like so, you could change the background color of your interface, or you see there's a bunch of different things you could change here. Now document properties are just for that one particular document. So with that, if you go to, for example, dimensions, you could change how many units you want to see for the precision, and as well as, let's go to units here, mmgs for millimeters per gram second, IPS for inch pound second, and also let's say we wanted to see more decimal places. You could change it up to 8 decimal places here. Okay, so for very high precision, I'm going to go with 3 just so you can see this. It'll say ANSI modified. That's fine. You could also change the over here the font if you want to go with something other than Century Gothic, but I'm not going to change it. I just wanted to show that to you. This is the heart of SolidWorks. So basically, anything you really need to change, you're going to be able to find there. Hit OK. Now we do learn how to do templates. There is a video for that. Those of you in my class will see it down below. Others just go to Vertanu 1 and type in templates, and I believe it'll take you to one of the videos that I made. It's only like 5 minutes, shows you how to make one really quick. Okay, so here we are. I'm going to select the front plane, start a sketch. We want to make that letter F. I'm going to have it with the line tool here. So I'm going to go to the line tool, and up here I'm going to click on the origin, drag it up. It's only 2 inches high, so keep it low. Drag it across here. This is like 1 inch across. Click. Look at that. You could infer to the midpoint. And actually, I'm going to scroll so you can see this a little bit better. Okay, there's the midpoint. That's pretty good. When it shows you that, it doesn't really lock in. Once you put the dimensions in, it will move, but I'll show you how to constrain some of those things in a second. Okay, click, drag this over here. Infer to this one here, click across, drag it a little bit further, drag this one down below the midpoint just a little bit, drag this out over here, click, find the inference to the origin. Once you got that, click, and then go ahead and close it up by dragging it over here. All right, go to Smart Dimension, dimension this at 2, and dimension this at 3.5. Now I go really fast through these. What I usually tell my students, I like you to do these on your own if you can. Use this as a backup to actually see how I did it. And there's a dozen ways you could do these parts. I just show you one method usually. Sometimes I might show you a couple methods if it's really interesting. But anyhow, as long as you get to the proper size, that's what's important. Okay, now go ahead and click on this one here. This is going to be 1 inch. And then now for a baseline dimension, there is an automatic tool for baseline dimension, but I'm not going to show it to you right now. But go ahead and click on this line here to this line, and this is going to be 1.75. All right, and let's go back to the drawing here. The next one is 2.5. So from this line here to this line here. And notice I'm stair-stepping these. And that's what you want to make it look like. You want to make it look professional if you can. All right, now go ahead and dimension this. This is going to be 0.85. All right, now this one, click from here to here, and this is going to be 1 inch. We can just hit the green check mark. Now notice this one, hit escape, is just kind of floating there. So you could drag it up and down. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to establish a relationship, a manual relation. Usually we've done it with, it's been done automatically. That's all these little green boxes that you see. Let's go ahead and try this. Click on that line. Make sure you hit escape a couple times first. Select that line. Don't select the endpoint. Select the line. Now hold Control and select this line. Stay away from the points. Now let's take a look what it gives us over on the left side. These are the relationships we could add to that. It tries not to give you ones that you can't technically add to it, so it actually filters out, like you won't see tangency right now because you would need an arc for that. All right, but look at that collinear. Go ahead and select that and hit the green check, and then you see it turns colors. Like, I don't know if you noticed, it was blue. Blue is the standard color for underdefined, meaning that it's missing a relationship or dimension. Remember, those are the two types of constraints inside SolidWorks. And so it's always good before you go into production for a company, make sure it's fully defined unless you're told otherwise, because that means that you've added dimension and relationship or constraint for everything. And if it's not, that means that you forgot something. All right, and down below here it says fully defined as well. The little minus symbol will eventually change over here for the sketch. Notice the sketch is listed there. Will change, it'll disappear. When it's usually a minus symbol, it says underdefined, but it just hasn't updated yet. All right, so now let's go to Features, and Extrude Boss Base, and this is just going to be 0.5, and then hit the green check. Now if you click off of it, there it is. Now you could just go to File, Save As, and just center, make sure you set it to save the part. This is going to be L1. Save as a part file in your same folder. And I don't care where you save them. It doesn't matter to me as long as you put them and upload them onto D2L so I can check them. Okay, now go to File and Save As, and make sure you save as a PDF. So an Adobe PDF. And it should remember the name from last time. So L1 is fine. Hit Save. And now you have your PDF. Now, I encourage those of you who want to have a little fun with this, fix it up. Put fillets in on it. All right, and you could have a little fun here and enjoy just tinkering around with some of these edges and such. Look at this, you have Superman X-ray vision. You can see right through it there, and click on that one, click on that one. And look at that, how quickly you can make something really interesting with just a little bit of work. You can rotate it around, select this face, go to Shell, and look at that. Now you have a much more complex part than before, have a little fun with it. Go ahead and add some colors to it. Select this, go to the beach ball, go to chamfer. And remember, you could change this. I'm going to change this to bronze. There we go. All right, so there you are. That's Lab 1. All right, now let's do Lab 1B. So go to File, New, Part, hit OK, and scroll down here in the training guide. This is page 26 now, and this is a block, a 3x5. Sound familiar? Has 4 holes this time. They're 1/2 inch in diameter and offset 3/4 of an inch, so slightly different than the part that you worked on, but you get to apply what you've done. There's also these symmetric symbols, so it's equal on both sides. So I'm going to show you something a little bit in advance here on how to mirror that, because I like to do things the fast way. You could just put those all individually, but that's good practice if you want to do it that way. But try the mirror. Let's try the mirror. Okay, so let's go to front. Actually, we'll do it on the top plane. Let's see what it looks like on the top plane. Select the top. To be honest, it doesn't matter. Top plane in this case. Okay, so top plane, start a sketch. Now, let's do something a little different here too. Have fun. Just enjoy using some of the different tools. Let's see. Hit the little arrow to the right of corner rectangle. How about center rectangle? Since it's a symmetric part, centered rectangles are excellent. So find the origin. When you get the green dot, click and drag this out. Go to Smart Dimension. Dimension it. This is 3. So it's really the opposite of our part that we did earlier, 3x5 versus 5x3. And now go to the circle tool, and over here, let's put the circle in with it. See what happens. Click over here. Try not to touch these edges. Stay away. It locks in automatically if you do that, so beware. Actually, you could override that by holding Control, and when you add a circle, just to show you, it will not, if you hold Control down on your key, it will not accidentally lock in. So I'm going to hit Escape there. I already have one. Okay, Smart Dimension. Let's add a dimension that's supposed to be 0.5, and then center point to left edge, and the order doesn't matter, however you want to do this, and it's going to be 0.75, and then the center point to the top edge, 0.75. Lay it out nicely though for the next person or yourself. Maybe in a year you have to change this, and if it looks good, you're going to understand it and interpret it better. It's just like a language. Speak it clearly, someone else is going to be able to understand it easier. All right, now that we have that, now I could show you how to mirror. Here's the trick to the mirror tool. There's 2 mirror tools. There's for 3D models, 3D features, as well as there's for 3D for sketches, sorry. So hit the little arrow to the right of the line. Now for 2D sketches that you're going to mirror, the trick to remember is centerline. We haven't used a centerline yet. Go to centerline. Centerline is construction geometry. Hover over the center here. See that little inference line? Click, drag it down to connect to the origin, because that's our center. Now, click over here, drag it. There's line chain. Hit Escape when you're done on your keyboard. Okay, to end the line chain, by the way, Escape will always do it, but sometimes if you don't want to escape out of it quite, you just want to end the line chain without exiting the feature, double click, and it will end the line chain. Okay, little tidbit of advice. Now watch this. Now, SolidWorks did add this. I was just reading, they've added a way to mirror both at the same time, which is really awesome. I'm not going to show that to you right now, but you could look it up on other tutorials. I'll probably have a tutorial on it very soon, but we're going to do it the old-fashioned way, just so you learn. I don't want to throw too much at you at one time. Okay, select, after you hit Escape, select that circle. Notice how it highlights. Now, we want to mirror it across this line, so click on this line here, and now find the Mirror Entities tool. Click. Boom, to the other side. Now notice these are symmetric symbols. If you delete those, by the way, any of these you could delete and it will actually remove that constraint. I meant to share that with you. Like if you wanted this horizontal there, you could click on the green square, hit delete, and then you can move it at an angle and such. I'm not going to do it right now. You're still learning. You could try it later if you like. But sometimes students don't want to see these constraints, and I believe here you could actually turn them off. Let's see, it's on here somewhere, I believe. Okay, I'm not seeing it there, so I'm going to go where I know it is. So go to View, hide show. And what we're looking for are sketch relations. There it is. Oh, it's down below here. You can't see it on my screen, sadly. I'm very sorry. It's down below. It's a perpendicular symbol. And okay, so just click on sketch relations. It'll turn off those. Now, once you turn that off, your system will remember it. Okay, so if you want them back on, you can, but watch this. Anything you click on that has a relation after this, it shows up. Okay, so just beware. You don't really need them on. It's nice when you first start. It's kind of like training wheels. Eventually, everyone turns them off, I think. Okay, now we want to get it to the other side. Now, notice I selected that circle first and then the center line holding control because that's for multiple selections. You could also do it by selecting the Mirror Entities tool first. Now, the Mirror Entities here, you can see we could select this. We want that mirrored as well as we want this mirrored. Now, there's Mirror About. Now, if you click in here, you select the horizontal line. Now, I think the new way you would be able to do it again if you select the left. But anyway, I just looked at the tool and I haven't really tinkered with it. So anyway, hit the green check mark and you'll see there they are. We just wanted the horizontal line. Okay, now we could go to Features, Extrude Boss Base, and we'll extrude that upward. And we actually want it 1.5 inches. Okay. All right, now there's a big cutout in here in the center. It's 1.5 inches centered. All right, so here's what we could do. Select this face here, start sketch, go back to center rectangle, right to your origin. The origin is projected now onto the top surface you're sketching on, projects directly above whatever you're sketching, and click on this upper edge when it turns orange, and simply dimension either the top or the bottom line to the desired 1.5 inches. Now you could rotate with your wheel a little bit so you can see this. Go to Features, Extruded Cut. Make sure you select Extruded Cut. And now it's supposed to go just 1 inch. So type in 1, hit enter, and enter again. Click anywhere on the screen, and you're done. All right, again, if you want to have fun with this, and I truly encourage you all to do this. I don't give extra credit for it. Sometimes I think maybe I should, because those of you who do this are exceptional by the end of the class. Those of you who don't, you can still be decent at this tool. All right. Anyway, let's set this to 1 and select this edge here, and you can do whatever you like. I'm just showing you an example. I just like to dress these up a bit. Look, I'm using the X-ray vision right there to get the backside. You could rotate to do it too if you wanted to get that. Hit the green check. All right, let's go to Chamfer. Hit the little Chamfer tool, and we'll keep it at 0.125. Now watch this. We'll do the whole face for chamfer on both of these. Hit the green check. And look at that. It actually put in that chamfer right there too. All right, let's go over to the underside. Select that face. Go to Shell. 100 thousandths is good. Hit the green check. Look at that. We just made a very basic part into something much more complex. It's not super complex, but it shows that you have done some work to it. Again, we could select the geometry and the chamfer, and this time let's go with plastics, high gloss, and I'll go with red. All right, and have fun with it. Select individual faces. Go to that face, and let's see here. You could go to all sorts of fun stuff. Mesh, let's try mesh, diamond mesh. And then this allows you to scale it. All right, so you could have some fun with that. Go ahead, you'll file, save this as L1B, as in boy, and then do a file. Get it into like those of you who are sending these to me, don't just send me a front view. I'd like you to send me like an isometric in most cases, or best view you could come up with. That's most descriptive for me until we start getting drawings. But go to File and Save as Adobe Document, PDF. All right, and hit Save. And that's it. All right, so those were pretty much, that's it for this class today. Those of you in my class, send me those. Remember, in D2L, you're going to see in the assignments area, drop the exercise 1, which was the first part we built, not the part file, not the SLDPRT, but the PDF in there, okay? And then scroll down, get outside of that, and you'll see the labs at the bottom of the list of all the assignments, and lab 1 and 1B, and drop those PDFs and those in the respective areas for that. And that's it. Have a great day. I hope you enjoyed this lesson.